What's up, guys? Coach Gags here. This is another edition of our No Luck training series. I guess this is the first official one. We've had a few. So if you've been watching as of late, we did our first benching for boobs at Peak Fitness in Harbison. That was great. We raised about $1,000 for Breast Cancer Research Foundation. I did an exhibition lift of 585-pound shirted bench. Upper body's been feeling pretty good. Not at my all-time peak strength for sure, but that's pretty good for me. My best bench in that same shirt is 635 pounds. I was weighing a bit heavier. I'm actually cutting right now. Been just starting to work and consult with Brian Silva a little bit. He's a local guy. In the past, I've used Sean Cody. I always like to kind of work with a local coach if I can. I know you don't, again, this is like maybe counterintuitive and maybe even going against like what I do, offering my remote services. But in general, if I can kind of have some more face-to-face interaction with somebody, I think that's more valuable. Not maybe 100% necessary, but that's just a topic for another day. So I am kind of cutting right now. That is kind of the main goal, just get my weight back down. I'm weighing around like 280 pounds at the time of this recording. I was kind of in like the mid to high 290s for a period of time. Again, past couple of years, especially past year, has been very challenging. Just having enough bandwidth to allocate those mental resources to my own diet, my own training. But I'm doing my best to, again, be coach first, competitor second, content creator third, and then above all that, just be a good, kind of family man and just human in general. So that's kind of what's on the horizon, what's on the docket right now. Again, if this is your first time stopping by, I'm Coach Gags. I've been involved with powerlifting and strength coaching for over 19 years. As we kind of enter in 2026, we're going to have a lot of really cool stuff going on. We have our 15-year anniversary party and alumni party. So if you're listening to this and you happen to be an alumni, please reach out. That party is going to be in April. It's 15 years in business as a company, and it'll also be my 20th year as a coach and as a competitor. Did my first meet back in 2006. So as it stands right now, I don't plan on doing any full powerlifting meets in the near future. Maybe I'll kind of come back as a master's lifter. We'll see. But one of the things I want to advocate for is, especially these single lift events, I want to really kind of make it clear that I want, strength training, competing to be accessible, sustainable, safe, supportive, all these sorts of things. We want to lower the barrier of entry for people to kind of get started. Something like strict curl, something like bench only competitions, something like deadlift only competitions. And we're going to kind of highlight, I'm going to do primarily equipped benching in terms of my max effort training. So we'll use some bench aids, we'll use some bench shirts. In terms of like muscular development, you could certainly argue that using all these different aids, using knee wraps and suits and all these different things, it certainly is not going to be like it's going to kind of de-emphasize that stretch position. But what is it going to do? It is going to kind of protect you where your shoulder is most vulnerable. That's going to be the biggest benefit of using a bench shirt. And it's going to kind of overload you at that lockout position. So it's going to give you a lot of neural adaptations. So in terms of your nervous system, your power output. So there are some kind of benefits in terms of the bone density and things of that nature. So I do think it is good to kind of balance out like your heavy training, like I said, as you get older, more partial range of motion, more shortened position training, using more supportive devices. But on your lighter work, on your lower intensity work, on your bodybuilding isolation type training, that's kind of where you can maybe, work more of the stretch position, your dumbbells, your push-ups, your flies. And in the case of a bench shirt, it is going to kind of start to kind of take a lot of your pec and shoulder and at least front delt out of the equation. These newer bench shirts do require a lot of shoulder strength to maintain position. But it's going to be a lot of back to control the movement and a lot of tricep. So these are some things to consider because sometimes it's like, I kind of go back and forth if like equipped lifting is kind of good for people or not, or if it's good for the masses. But I do think that if some supportive gear, Mark Bell always says, protect yourself before you wreck yourself. Some supportive gear I think is going to allow you to kind of extend your strength training. So if wearing a belt, wearing some wraps, one thing that's been really interesting on the internet has been these elbow wraps have been very popular. There's no like contest for them. And what I always kind of caution people is that especially with the elbow wraps, because it is going to overload the elbow joint. So it actually is going to, again, assist you with elbow extension out of the hole versus, shoulder movement. But your chest is still exposed. So I do think whether you're a competitive lifter or not, having some sort of pause, reversing, directions more smoothly, it's going to be a good idea for longevity. So I'm going to kind of get my caffeine in me. We're going to work up to a heavy single today. I'm going to show you guys a bench aid and some bench shirts as we go, and then we'll go from there. So the floor press is one of those exercises where it's often touted as a great building exercise in the Westside Barbell system. When we talk about max effort work, there's exercises that kind of build your strength, there's exercises that test your strength. And the floor press is a really interesting one because it is partial range of motion technically, but it kind of eliminates your arch, it eliminates your leg drive, and it kind of puts you in this no man's land, especially if you just let your elbows kind of rest on the ground for that split second and you pause. It's going to make sure that you're really controlled on the way down. It's going to make sure you have a lot of kind of drive through that mid-range, through that lockout. So it will be a kind of a more tricep dominant press. If I do this raw, I usually go with a closer grip. If I do this in my shirt, I'll usually switch to a competition grip. But again, the other benefit of the floor press is that everyone has a floor. So it's one of those things where it's very accessible to people. And it's if you're looking for kind of a really simple bench variation, if you have the mobility to do it, obviously overhead pressing can be a great complement. If you could tolerate it, incline pressing could be a good in-between option. But outside of that, my next kind of go-to, especially if you are kind of getting ready for a competition, some sort of floor press is great. And obviously you could do boards and stuff like that, but the tricky thing about boards sometimes is getting them set up right, having someone hold them, and then sometimes some of the apparatus that we have. You could use things like a squat sponge, you could use things like there's different shoulder saver pads and stuff like that, but those blocks a lot of times can be awkward when they kind of approach your body. Floor press, lay on the floor, and it's also relatively safe. So if you know anything about kind of weightlifting, one of the reasons supposedly about I believe it's a 12-inch diameter, but the diameter of the plates was to kind of make sure that it doesn't kind of fall. If the barbell fell on people when they were doing snatches and clean and jerks, it wouldn't kind of crush their skull. So you kind of have built-in safeties with the floor. Worse that if you have a really big stomach, maybe it'll kind of hit you in the stomach, but relatively safe movement. If you're not doing it with spotters, which I don't have any spotters today. My wife and Bryn are competing soon. They train on Tuesday nights. I've been starting to train with the crew again, the night crew, but I just want to give attention to Bryn and Katie right now. So I'm going to elect to just kind of train solo for the next 2 weeks or so, and then I'm going to kind of rejoin the night crew, and maybe we'll do some voiceover videos based off that. But I'm going to be doing no luck in December, bench only. I'm recovering from a hamstring and calf injury, so lower body training heavy, not in the cards. I am able to do high bar squats. Some trap bar deadlifts feel okay, but a regular deadlift, any type of real hinge or movement or kind of knee flexion is kind of out of the cards right now. In terms of warming up before a max effort bench, I always like to do some sort of band pull apart, get the upper back going. You can do some, fly movements to stretch the chest a little bit. If you are doing a regular bench, I think it is really important to prep your hips and your lower body so you can maintain a good arch. A lot of people kind of overlook warming up the lower body before they bench, just like a lot of people overlook warming up the upper body before they squat. And one of the things I've also been kind of doing is just more rope flow type movements, just to kind of open up the shoulders. So just so you can kind of see some different things, so, and that's been seeming like it's been working pretty good, just to kind of uncoil the shoulders and the spine. And I think that's also going to be beneficial for strict curl training, which at some point I'll do a strict curl warm-up video. I know I keep saying that, but we're going to work up to a heavy single. Maybe I'll do a down set. Maybe I'll add some chains. I'm not really kind of taking this training too seriously. I am looking forward. I am going to be competing in New England at Fairhaven Fitness in February, so that's kind of more like on my radar in terms of like actually kind of trying. This is more just a fun thing. We'll kind of get into it, but nonetheless, I just wanted something to do. I wanted to kind of do something in the community, the local area. It's going to be in Salisbury, so I'm going to work up to a heavy single today and see what I could take out myself and see what I could press myself. So we're going to get going. All right, so I always like to start with the empty bar. You can kind of see here, using a squat bar. Some of the newer bars in competition actually have been slightly thicker in diameter. And this is generally, some of it's just for novel variation, but the other thing is it's going to be a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more surface area. So I bridge up, pause, drive, pause, drive. And I'll probably just take some plate jumps initially and then go from there. So the meat is going to be in kilos, so I'm going to kind of practice like with these 55-pound plates. A little bit of a different feel. I did get to use regular iron plates at our bench fundraiser because it was an unsanctioned meet. So that was kind of fun. Just throwing around, 5-6 plates on a bench. And again, regardless of if it's, shirted or not, I think sometimes people get like it twisted. I think one of the things that we try to preach at Powerlifting for the People and Gags on Strength, it's about your personal record. Speaking of personal record, if you use our code, you could save some money. I think it's 10%, but we have a link for that if you guys are interested in Team Personal Record gear. Little shameless plug there. I'd like to support Larry's company. You're able to support those that support you. All right. So I'm going to do this, probably do doubles and triples, and then eventually, once we get a little heavier, singles. All right. So we're just going to kind of get right into it. I'll probably do like two or three more sets of raw. But typically, like with warm-ups like this, I'll kind of go on the faster side initially, and then I'll kind of slow things down as we get to our top sets. And I'll usually just like redo my wraps. If you guys are wanting to get some tips on how to use the wrist wraps, make sure you're going above and below the joint. And notice how I'm doing this, making a fist. So you want to kind of mimic the position that you're going to be during the lift. And I kind of told you, right now I'm starting pinkies on the rings. We'll kind of go out wider once we get going. So at this point, I'm going to switch over to single repetitions, and then I'm going to get in my first bench aid, and I'll show you guys that. We're going to go to 2 red plates per side, which is about 65 pounds of bar weight. 265 pounds. And with this bar, it'll be 275 pounds because we have a 25 kilo or 55-pound barbell today, which is getting more and more common during equipped competitions. Some federations are kind of adopting these more specialty bench bars as people are starting, like Jimmy Kolb, are starting to bench more and more in the shirt. And just like they did with the squat bar, kind of making sure that the bar is not whipping, the bar is not deforming, under these 1,000-pound plus bench attempts. So this will be my last raw warm-up, and then I'll probably just jump another plate. Floor press, you could have your feet down or legs bent. I usually just do my legs bent if I'm solo, so I can get a better pick by myself. I'm gonna pause, fire up, and then go from there. All right, so now we're gonna use our first bench aid of the day. So some people call this, I think this is called a Raven. Essentially, it's kind of like just like a more stiff version of like a slingshot. But the difference between something like this is this can be used as like an insert if you want to make a bench shirt more plies. So this is a single ply insert. So this could be, again, it's not legal in competition, but so that's why we call it a bench aid. So that's going to be something that's going to be really useful to warm up before you get in a shirt, or if you want to just do some training that mimics a bench shirt, but is not a bench shirt. So it's something kind of in between competitive equipped lifting and your raw training. So with this like single ply, you could still use a closer grip potentially, but generally speaking, when you start to use a bench aid, it's going to stretch with you. So as you stretch the material, you're going to get more out of it. It's going to want to kind of slingshot you back. Hence, Mark Bell's slingshot. We want to make sure that the elbow is exposed, and we want to seat this the best we can so it's not too high. And we want to try to make sure that we kind of stay out on the material, so that your rear delt strength is going to be really important here. And as these things get tighter, having a partner actually keep your hands out when you're setting up can be very beneficial. So I'm going to go from pinkies on the rings to middle finger on the rings. Let that weight settle. Drive the elbows out. Spread the material. Pause. Fire through. Spread the material. Fire through. So one of the things I forgot to factor in with the rack height was, as I widen my grip, I'm going to need a lower rack height. So I may need to make an in-between adjustment or go back to the closer grip with this setup. Oopsies. So that's something to consider. So like obviously the wider you go, the lower your hands are going to be relative, hence because you're shortening the range of motion. So that was a little bit of a boo-boo on that one. But that was, let's see, 275. So that was 385 pounds. Felt okay. Hard part kind of coming out. Normally, in a contest situation, in a crew situation, and this is where like I'm going to have some episodes on crew training, stuff like that. Definitely a really good idea in a shirted bench to train with people, especially and have safety protocols. So again, the good thing here is that the floor press is going to be safe because the weights will kind of hit the ground before it kind of hits your head or anything like that. God forbid something happens. So I'm going to be a little bit more careful on the takeout, maybe bring my finger in on this set. Let's see where and I'm going to set the bench, but the bench aid felt good. It's really important that you try to figure out, setting the bench aid up the same way every time. Same thing with your bench shirt. And as you get more experienced, you could certainly play around with jacking the shirt, adjusting it, seating it differently. The bench shirt is definitely, in my opinion, the most technical of all the equipped lifts. It's the one that can go wrong the fastest. It's also the one where you can kind of get like potentially the most carryover. Some people with some of these shirts could even like double their raw max. So someone like Bench and Benny, for example, like his bench, he's doing a more single ply training right now. At the time of this recording, I think he'll actually be competing this weekend. His best raw, to my knowledge, I think was like 440 range, and his best equipped bench was 820 in a multiply. And now he's kind of approaching like the mid 600 range, even upwards of 700 in single ply. So just to kind of give you an idea. But again, he's one of the most skillful benchers in the country, maybe even in the world, in terms of getting the most out of the equipment. And you always want to make sure that elbow is legal. So you want to have that elbow exposed when we're doing our shirted training. Okay. So I'm going to go one finger in, see how that goes. That seemed like a happy medium. So I'll probably do one more set in the bench shade, and then see if I could actually take the weight out in my shirt or not. May not be possible with this height. That's why we're experimenting, but worst case, so actually what I think I'm gonna do is put another plate on, throw the bench shirt on so you guys can see. If that's not happening, I'll go back down, and then we'll go from there. All right, so in terms of the bench shirt, there's a lot of different variations, but this is what's considered legal because you can kind of see how there's a shoulder region, there's a chest panel, and then there's this kind of like, so if you don't have this kind of shoulder region and chest panel, and if it's just kind of like the slingshot, so this would be like legal, and then like the bench aid would not, because this is not technically a full shirt. Okay, so this is just an insert. Inserts are also not legal in the RPS, but in some federations, like say the IPA, if I wanted to make this 3-ply, I can kind of just stick this in here like so. So there is some element of danger when it's not attached to the shirt, but this is all one piece. This is 2 plies. I'm going to keep the shirt open for now, but this typically would go under your singlet and then kind of go from there. When you're training alone, what I typically do is I'll get my wrist straps on first, get the shirt in. What's nice about these unlimited shirts, they're a lot easier to get on and off, so that you don't have to kind of sit in them. With the older polyester denim single and double and multiply shirts, you usually need like a whole crew to kind of get in them. So I can kind of get this on my own. It's still better to have training partners, but at least, again, from a training scenario, I can get some training in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my wrist straps on first. Again, getting above and below the joint. And then I'm going to hopefully be able to take this out myself. Once it gets to like over 400 pounds in a shirt, it gets very, very difficult for me. Not the best takeout person, but usually in a floor press. So sometimes I like to go underhand and then kind of swim like this. And then if you could have someone kind of pull the shirt down, but kind of swimming into it is good. And then I'm just going to make sure it gets a little bit lower here. So we're going to give this a whirl. I probably won't do much more than this today. Okay. All right, so not too shabby. I might just start adding some chains to that because that felt pretty good. Work up to a single. I don't want to do much more in terms of bar weight, just for safety. This weight would probably not touch, but again, I'm getting some overload work, getting the tricep work. I'm getting used to having 500 pounds in my hands. So I'm gonna throw some chains on and then go from there. But this would probably be like a last warm-up weight. And I'm going to start doing single repetitions. All right, so after reviewing, we'll go 545. And then probably just hit a single here. So this would probably be maybe a little bit below my opener, but more than my last warm-up. So again, it's not going to be full range. But give myself a little time to recover. Usually what I'll do in situations like this, if I could find one, is I'll take one of my kitchen timers and actually time my rest. So I'll have to find one. I think I see a couple. So we're going to do this. Take this for a single, blast it up, get a little chalk on my hands because it's starting to get a little slippery. Grip is actually a major consideration, especially especially in the band shirts. It's a much more of a factor. So grip strength, upper back strength, potentially forearm health. These are just different things if you're getting into shirted benching you want to consider. How often should you get in your bench shirt? If you look at someone like Scott Mendelson, one of the most decorated benchers of all time, I believe the only athlete to hold records equipped and raw simultaneously. He's done well into the thousands in a shirt, one of the first men to do so. And he's done, I think, 715 raw after getting slapped. That's a really cool video if you want to check it out. Scott Mendelson was also the head judge in 2013 when I think it was the Spring Frenzy, APF Spring Frenzy. I squatted 850 pounds. Scott Mendelson was the head judge. And Chris Taylor was the side judge. I got 2 white lights. And 2's all you need, buddy. And he gave me some props. That felt really good. And yeah, so in terms of Scott, like he would just do a lot of partials, and he was very either like he would hit a record or bomb out. Like that was kind of like high risk, high reward. And he would get in his shirt every single week. People like Jimmy Kolb will get in his shirt. He's on the more rare end, but he's a bench only guy. So if you're a bench only guy, you can handle a little bit more. Same thing with Scott. So Scott would get in his shirt every single week. Jimmy Kolb during a prep will do a shirted day and then a bench aid day. So he might do like a 2 or 3 ply shirt on his heavy day, and on his rep day, he'll use like a bench aid, sometimes going raw, but I think more often than not because there's a smaller gap. If you are in single ply or if you're in a looser multi-ply shirt, having like a raw day or a slingshot day and then a shirted day is good during prep. And if you're newer to bench shirt training, you need to get your nervous system acclimated to it. You could get in your shirt maybe every other week, or you can go 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. So both strategies can work, but essentially you're kind of getting in your shirt just maybe 2 out of 4 times in a month. And then maybe also on those weeks in between, you can kind of do a bench aid week 1, bench shirt week 2, and you can kind of alternate like that. That was kind of an idea that Matt Wenning had. So for example, if you're an equipped squatter, you might go raw on week 1 as like your deload or your transition week. Then you go briefs. Then you could either go suit plus briefs, and then full gear like on the 4th week. So you can straps up with wraps, and then kind of cycle through like that. So there's a lot of different ways you could do it. And in terms of your max effort work, typically you can go up, you're going to stick with mostly triples, singles, and doubles. But especially with the banded equipment, you can do more higher repetitions. I do think that if you're newer, try to get more touches or like a 1 board or lower. 1 board and half boards are good. If you don't have boards, you could also get a second pair of wrist wraps from PR Lifestyle. And you could also add wraps to the bar. That's a really great like hack. But if you're training alone, I like the floor presses. This is not something I would recommend you do. And even this is a little sketchy, but again, so don't try this at home. So I'm going to attempt, we're going to do a single with 545 pounds. If that goes well, I might just add some chains, and then that'll be it for the day. All right, we got 545 pounds on the bar. All right, so I think that's going to be good for today. And then we're gonna go up to, we're gonna go do some back down sets with chains. All right, so we're gonna go back down to around 385 pounds. And then I'm gonna put the chains over the top. And we're setting up chains for floor press, whether it be on the bar, the barbell itself, or on the collar. I should say the sleeve. So this would be about 100 pounds extra at lockout. I like to make sure the clips are closer to the floor. But you'll see this is a pretty good contrast in weight. We're going to do this with a closer grip. So pinkies are going to go back on the rings. And we're going to make sure that the chains are in front of the apparatus. And try to move that over the best we can. So I'll do like probably a few doubles or triples here, depending on how it feels. But I want to just kind of get used to having a little bit more weight in my hands and overloading the triceps. And then we will just finish off. On this particular day, I'm going to focus on kind of chest, shoulders, and triceps as my systems work. And I usually do my back training on another day. Again, since I'm not really prioritizing lower body training at the moment, my biceps, my back, rear delts will be kind of done on a different day. But if you were kind of doing a more classic West Side program, upper lower split, and sometimes your back work you might even do. Some people will do back every single day, like horizontal pulls on one day, vertical pulls on another day. So more lat focused training on one day and more kind of the meat, the mid traps, rhomboids, those sorts of things. So I'm going to go back to the bench aid. But that's a good, if you're kind of pressed for time, top set, down set, great method. All right, so I think we got 52. So I think it's somewhere in the neighborhood of like 90 pounds of chains, but I'm not really too worried about that. Around 100 pounds of chains, so it'll be high 400s at the top. The most I've done in this bench band is around 495, so I'm going to go pinkies on the rings. Keep that material spread. Oh, this one. A little boo-boo, I forgot to take a plate off. All right, we're keeping that in the video. So, don't want to misload yourself with 55 pounds on one side. So, that's kind of where I don't really like doing this content creation stuff when I'm going real heavy, but I know that it's just going to help communicate ideas a little bit better. And, if this helps one person get better, I think it's worth it. Because, again, I'm kind of on the back nine of my own competitive career. So, anyways, 385, around 90 pounds of chains, close grip, Dr. Floor Press. Invented by Dr. Floor in 1964. So I'm going to do one more set of 3. So this is 385 and about 90 pounds of chains, about 475 at the top. So pretty happy with that. Again, since my best single with the bench aid, like on a normal competition bench, is 495 for a double. So happy about that. This feels good. Last week I had not such a great session, but part of the issue was I was kind of too preoccupied with coaching others and stuff. So one of the things that's very challenging, and if you are interested in more equipped lifting, check out the interview I did with Chris Delafave of Bergen County Barbell, one of the best crews around. If you want to be like a leader of a group, it's very difficult, but you have to like learn to kind of change hats and change like your mindset very quickly, and that can be very exhausting. So a lot of times, if you are the leader of your group, you are the person that's kind of coaching and leading the session and also training. Sometimes it might be a better idea to either get started with your warm-ups earlier so you could finish sooner and help the group, or just do your accessories on another day or like in a separate session. So those are different strategies for like the coaches out there. Again, it's one of those things. Is it optimal? No. But again, it's like, if not me, then who? Calling a spade. One of the reasons why I kind of do all these things, and again, in my heart of hearts, I just feel that there's things that are missing in powerlifting. There's things that are missing. We got to get back to the team culture. We got to get back to having like low barrier of entry events. We have to make this more accessible to people. It can't be like Mean Girls where you can't like, oh, you can't sit with us, all this stuff. That's kind of what powerlifting has kind of turned into. The sports side of powerlifting, I think, is great. I think it's really exciting. What people are kind of doing on, the tested side, the IPF side, the stiff bar walked out side, fantastic. And I'm a big fan. I love watching it. But that's not like reasonable for like most people. It's not reasonable. Powerlifting for the people is about making this accessible, sustainable, and safe for everyone. Combo rack, calling a spade, it's not safe. It's not safer than the monolift. It's not safer than a competition bench. Period. It's less convenient. It's not as it's not as good for maybe the fans. I'm not really too concerned for the individual person. I'm not really too concerned about that stuff. It needs to be accessible. It needs to be a low barrier of entry. You shouldn't have to like have all these crazy restrictions. So again, what we're trying to do at Gaglione Strength, I will be involved in some bigger events. We have like the West Coast, we have some stuff with Larry Wheels that we're doing. We have some stuff with RPS Nationals that we're doing. But by and large, we want to try to have some charity events where you don't even need a singlet. The rule set's even like a little bit more basic. The local meets that are like 20, 30 people. You're not just a number. And crew training. Anyways, so I'm going to stop yapping a little bit, but again, I really hope that you guys kind of enjoyed this. We'll kind of close out the video with the final sets. Please check out the links in the description if you want to support us. Please subscribe, do all the things for the algorithm. I appreciate you. All right, so we'll do one last set, and then we'll close up. All right, so this is our final down set of the day. 385 with the bench aid and about 90 pounds of chains. You'd always also say ish, 90-ish. Ish kind of exonerates you from the exact weight, so that's a little pro tip for you there. Closer grip, pinkies on the rings. Spread the material. Big air. Settle. Control. Yeah, buddy. All right, not too shabby. No handoff. No hype. No music. No headphones, guys. Can you believe it? Anyways, I'm just talking a little ish now. Let's make crews great again. Let's make powerlifting fun again. And let's get stronger together. Thank you guys for watching. This is our first official episode of our No Luck training series. We'll see if I can get back up to a 600-pound bench, but I'm going to focus more on the process and let the product take care of itself. I am in a health phase. I am dropping weight, so I'm pretty darn happy with this. Did 545 for a single top set in my shirt. And then I did my down sets at 385 and about 90 pounds-ish of chain. Thank you so much for watching. Till next time, stay strong, and we'll see you soon. Psh.